I'm the president of I'm the president of JA Manitoba, and this is our second of three virtual career fairs, and we're really excited about today's. We're doing something a little unique and different in that just about everybody who's going to be chatting and interviewed is with Manitoba Hydro. So that is pretty awesome. We've had to juggle different folks around. We've had folks who aren't able to make it. Obviously, if you're following the news at all, there's all sorts of forest fires and issues related to that Hydro is looking after. So we've had to jump back and forth. Anyways, we're very excited. So first up, Nikki Fortney is joining us. Nikki is a power electrician Journeyperson, if I have that right. So Nikki's just going to sort of talk about when she joined Hydro and what she does there, and then we'll jump to a Q&A. And of course, teachers just send your questions into the chat box. And away we go. Nikki, welcome. Everybody welcome, but we'll start with Nikki. Tell us a bit about yourself and your job.
Good morning. Thank you very much. So, my name is Nikki. I'm a power electrician for Manitoba Hydro. Um, I basically, a lot of people don't know what that means. So, basically, any of the buzzing cages in everybody's neighborhoods or any of the electric dams is where I typically work. I'm currently stationed out of Selkirk, Manitoba, and I've been with Hydro for 5.5 years now. When I was in high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted options. So I took physics and chemistry and pre-calculus because I knew that would open some doors for me. After high school, I worked retail for a little bit and decided that I wanted to do a trade. So I went to and did the pre-employment electrical course at Red River College. I did 2 years of apprenticeship with that. And then I was lucky enough to have a family member who had previously worked at Hydro who let me know that they were hosting an info session for the next hiring that they were doing. Got through the info session, did all of the aptitude testing in their interviews, and now I've been here for 5.5 years. So my day to day is quite different a lot of the time. Uh, I knew that I didn't want to sit at a desk. I knew I didn't want to work outside. I like making things work and building things, working with a team, doing different things all the time, and every day is truly different. So this week alone, I've been on call switching equipment back in after a pole fire. I've wired a meter on the side of somebody's house. This tomorrow, I'm starting on some breaker maintenance. And when you guys think of a breaker, you think of like a little tiny box in your panel in your house. The breakers I'm working on this week, you can actually do jumping jacks inside of them. They're ginormous.
Wow. Hmm.
We have lots of different pieces of test equipment that helps us test all of those and make sure everything's functioning properly and any troubleshooting that we do when something's not quite working the way it's supposed to. Some of the other really cool things about my job is I've gotten to work in so many different places and I've seen so many different things, including a whole lot of animals. So, moose and all kinds of ducks and otters and foxes and bears. I've gotten to go a lot of very cool places. So, I've worked all the way from L'Atelier, which is just a little bit above the border to the United States, all the way up to Gillum, which is just south of Churchill. And some of the days that I was working up there, it was actually colder than Mars in the middle of winter there. It was quite chilly. When I was Gillingham, I also had the opportunity to go and stand actually at the bottom of the river and look at the gates that were holding the water back, which was very, very cool. Not many people can say they've done that. But yeah, I love being such an integral part of this massive system that supplies power to every person in our province and beyond, in all the modern day amenities that it provides for all of us, including all the computers and lights we're using right now. So yeah, that's kind of me
Awesome.
for what I do.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Thanks, Nikki. First question I have is, and you touched on a little bit. So, I don't want to date you and ask you how many years ago Red River was, but by your youthful experience, I'm assuming it was just a few years ago. Can you tell us about that as far as specifically, like, what did you take? I know people are already going, someone's already asked me, what did that program cost? What's the cost of that program at Red River? Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I subsidy for it, being yeah, but I believe the course was I at the time, and this was back in 2013, 2014.
Okay.
And that
Okay.
would have been, I think it was about $3,000 then.
Okay.
So
And it's a full-time program, I assume.
yes, that was a full-time course. It was 6 months long, and that basically gets you the equivalent of your level one in apprenticeship.
Okay. And is that work that schooling, is that all in school, or are you getting out of the classroom? Does Red River have like workshops that you sort of start trying things?
Yeah, so the pre-employment program is really pre-employment. It's really starting out from like basic. You have no experience whatsoever. And so they extend what is typical for a apprenticeship schooling, which is about 10 weeks. They extend that into 6 months, just to give you more time to go over everything for the pre-employment course. When you get into
Okay.
doing your actual levels with apprenticeship, it's 10 weeks of school, and then the rest of your year you spend working on the job site.
Wow. Somebody's asking, sorry, I just lost it. Where is it? Does Hydro accept applications from students right out of high school?
Yes. Yeah, we will accept students right out of high school. You do have to be graduated. You need a driver's license and
Right.
your high school diploma, but they will absolutely accept your applications.
Excellent. Where, I mean, you're in, you said Selkirk, right?
That's correct.
So typically, are there job opportunities uh, everywhere? Are they centralized? Can you talk a little bit about like what opportunities were presented when you applied or once you were on the job? Like, and then I guess, I know I've already got to follow up. Someone's asking like, what's the opportunity to move up to a higher paying job or to a different community? That bunch of different questions in one.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're rotated through your 4 year apprenticeship when you start with Manitoba Hydro as a power electrician trainee. You get sent to different spaces. So I've worked in Gillum, I've worked out of construction, I've worked out of Riel and to different stations. And then we make a pretty good wage in what I'm doing, but I'm only just at the beginning of my career as well. But there's different kinds of jobs that I could move into. So I could go into safety, I can go into a position called our Eng Tech,
Okay.
which is kind of supporting all of our power electricians. You can do into management, supervisor positions, all sorts of stuff.
Somebody asks what you're like, are you essentially, are you on call? Are there certain shifts where you're working where you have to answer a call in the middle of the night to go look after something, or are you 9 to 5?
So most of the time we're pretty 8 to 4:30. So pretty much 9 to 5 most days. So we do work on a different kind of work cycle where we get typically also have on call, which is shared between my entire team in our area. So I'm on call once every 8 weeks usually.
Gotcha. Um, uh, do you find that there are situations like when those emergencies do come up, like we're talking about just earlier, as far as what's happening across the province? Is it the type of thing where you have an opportunity to work more hours? Can you sort of sign up to enlist to help out when Hydro has these kinds of emergencies going on?
Yeah, it depends on your department and how involved it is. But like back in 2019 for the big October storm during Thanksgiving weekend,
Right.
everybody and anybody was welcome to volunteer and go and join. With these fires, they're pretty localized. So most of the time, it's like the area that you're working in, those people will go and help out there. Um, but it really depends on where it is and what's going on. But there is lots of opportunity for that, yes.
Awesome. Okay, last question, and then I gotta jump. Somebody wants to know, how many holidays do you get in a year?
How many holidays do we get in a year? Well, you build up vacation time and you can kind of save some of that year to year, which is really fantastic. So, just I don't know how much everybody gets because it varies based on how long you've been with the company. But
Of
last year
course.
I had
Yeah.
about 30 days of vacation time, which
Nice.
was really fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, this was terrific, Nikki. Thanks so much for participating, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you.
Thanks. Take care. I'm going to jump over to Floyd Thorkelson. Floyd is a Powerline technician training supervisor. So that's a mouthful on a business card, Floyd. I'll
Yeah.
let you talk about a little bit about what you do at Hydro, how you got to that position, maybe a little bit about your education, and then we'll jump to a Q&A.
Right on. Sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Floyd Thorkelson, Powerline Technician Training Supervisor. It's a handle, but basically my job is to hire Powerline technicians for the province of Manitoba. We cover the whole province. So, I'm a very passionate Powerline technician. Of course, I come from the trade myself, and I just love telling people about the excellent opportunities we have. We hire twice a year, and we hire big numbers too. We hire 40 to 50 Powerline technicians a year. So, that might surprise people. And it's an excellent opportunity. So I was lucky enough that I had a older cousin that I looked up to, and he was a Powerline technician. So I knew in high school that I wanted to be a Powerline technician. So I really focused on the courses that I required. So back then it was physics and math, applied math. We've recently dropped physics as a qualification, but we still have the applied 40S math. Grade 12 math is the qualification. So, like I said, I knew I knew at that age I wanted to do this, so I really focused on taking those courses, and it's an excellent program. So it's all in-house. It's a 4-year apprenticeship program, all in-house, fully paid apprenticeship program. So if your parents have RASP money saved up for you, you can basically put that in your bank account. You don't need it. Everything's paid for at Manitoba Hydro. Fully paid apprenticeship program. I always say you're paid your same hourly wage, whether you're out working in the cold or you're sitting in a nice warm classroom doing your apprenticeship level. It's a pretty good deal that way. But anyways, the reason why I like Powerline technician work and why I was attracted to it is, I'm the type of person that could never imagine myself sitting in an office. When I was younger, ironically, I'm doing that now. But, working outside, working with my hands, working as part of a team. And the nice thing about Powerline technician work is it's never monotonous. We're always traveling. We're always on the move. We basically work out of our trucks. We respond to outages. Um, Talking about the wildfires, there's going to be power line technicians are the first ones to get called when poles are burning or lines are going down. So it's very rewarding. We get to work, in close contact with our customers. We get to restore their power when they think they're going to be off for a long period of time. We get to put their meter in when they, save up and build that dream house they've been saving for. It's very rewarding in the fact that we get to work hand in hand with our customers. And part of it, what makes us proud, is not a job that anyone's cut out to do. It's physically demanding and it's mentally challenging as well, but it's very, very rewarding and it pays well. Some of the highlights from my career as well as Nikki talked about the big storm in 2019, unprecedented storm. We lost over 4,000 poles, and our power line technicians and all of our staff worked for weeks and weeks on end to get the power back on. And our customers are just so grateful because I think they're going to be out of power for months at a time. They see the devastation, and
Yeah,
we roll in and we fix it up in short order and throw that switch to get the power back on. There's nothing more rewarding than that. Especially at night when you're working at night and you fix up a line and you throw that switch and you just see the lights coming on across the countryside. It's quite the feeling. We get to give that power.
that's awesome. That's really cool. It's funny because I'm in the south end of Winnipeg and our power went out last night. So I was literally laughing as I'm a light sleeper and I noticed literally all the lights sort of that reflected my window went off and I thought, well, what's going on? And then honestly, within I think half an hour, I had an email saying, hey, you're in this area, Winnipeg, your power's out. It'll be up in 4 hours. and it was up in an hour. So there's my bravo to Manitoba Hydro. So I thought it was kind of ironic. I was hosting all you guys this morning. Um,
Yep.
okay, first question I have, Floyd. Someone asks, are there ways for students to engage in the high school apprenticeship program with Hydro, or do they need to be older, graduated to start?
No, like anybody is welcome to apply. So the qualifications are you have to be a high school graduate, you have to have grade 12 applied math, and you have to have a valid driver's license. So of course we have a hands-on tryout where you get to really experience a trade. You get to climb a pole, see what that's like, really determine if this is something you want to do. But we try we try and select the best available. So if a candidate can come right out of high school, of course, work experience is a benefit, but if they
Sure.
can prove to us that they have the aptitude and ability and are trainable and have a good attitude, we might hire them right
Yeah.
away.
I know you touched on it a bit, but somebody's asking, so specifically, uh, the job title says pole, so is obviously that's a huge part of the job. So the question is, can you describe a little bit specifically about what the job is of technician?
Yeah, power line technicians work. So we're the ones that you see climbing poles, climbing the hydro poles, right? Most of our
Yeah,
work is up there, building and maintaining the power lines. So we also work on a bucket trucks, but we don't all only work on the overhead lines. We work on the underground lines as well. So our job is basically taking the power from the substation right to your meter, building the new, maintaining the existing, and fixing it when it breaks. That's basically what a power line technician does.
and are these the same folks that are actually, like you talked about, Hydro losing hundreds and hundreds of poles years ago in the fires? Are these guys the ones actually installing them, or is that sort of a separate job description classification?
Well, for the most part, we have operator drivers that run the machine that puts the pole in the
Right,
ground, and then we take
right,
it. We have some power build it, install the wires, and
right.
you
Are
betcha.
you froze for me? Can you hear me, Floyd?
Yep, yep, I'm good.
Okay. Okay, yeah, just your picture's frozen, but as long as we can chat. Somebody of course is asking me, what type of monies does this pay? I guess first off, entry level, somebody that walks into this job and then gets hired, what are they looking at sort of as far as compensation? Of course, vacation time is always a big question.
Yeah, so entry level wage is $25 an hour. It's basically half of Journeyperson top out wage. So Journeyperson top out wage is around $50 an hour, but our power line technicians make a lot of their money when the power goes out. It's double time overtime after 8 hours a day, and most of our qualified journey persons are making 120,000, 130, 140, 150, 160, depending on the amount of overtime available. Some of our power
Wow.
line technicians up north, where they're required to travel long distances, and it takes
Yeah,
a long time to get to where you need to fix the power. Those guys are making
yeah.
some good money, like 170, $180,000 a year before
Wow,
taxes.
that's incredible. So, typically, do folks are folks paid the same wage regardless of where they are, or is there some allowance if they live in a remote area or something like that?
Well, that's an excellent question. We have trouble attracting people to the north, so we have to have pay incentives. So there is northern allowances. The people that work north of the 53rd in our group get an additional hour of overtime every day. They got to work it, of course, but
Right.
yeah, there are incentives, and our guys know that if they're willing to go up north, they're going to make some money. You betcha.
And do people is there opportunities, say, for folks that live more, southwestern, eastern Manitoba, whatever, can they go on jobs like that, for a week or a couple weeks or a month or something? I suppose in case of emergencies, where you need more crews up there.
Yeah, so how it works when we first hire power line technician trainees, they stay in a pool and I'm responsible for the pool. So I decide where they go for work experience. But that being said, power line technicians are based where the customer base is. We have a lot more need in Winnipeg than we do up north because the customers are more dispersed, right? So there's more work for power line technicians where the customers are. There's a lot more work in Winnipeg than there is in the north. But yeah, I often have trainees reach out to me and request to go north or request to get on the road so that they can get those different experiences.
Yeah.
You bet.
Are there typically what's the career what's the span of somebody's career who would join Hydro, at a fairly young age, out of high school, or a couple years at college or trade school? How long would they work for Hydro typically?
Well, as long as they want. We have people that have started at 18 years old and retired at 55. 55 is the age for an unreduced pension, and they've climbed poles their whole career because they love it. They love the job, right? But Hydro's a learning organization too, and if a power line technician wants to take courses or wants to go into other career streams, the experience they gain as a power line technician is beneficial to those other career streams. So Hydro's not going to hold you back either. A lot of guys after, guys and gals after 15 years of climbing poles and working hard, they're starting to look at other opportunities and move into supervisory, move into safety. A lot of different opportunities at Hydro. We're a big organization, so just because you start as a power line technician doesn't mean you have to retire as a power line technician.
How many technicians would there be? I don't know if you know this. How many would there typically be working for Hydro at any one time? And what's the influx that you guys need annually for new staff, with obviously other folks, retiring, getting promoted, changing careers?
Oh, it's an excellent question. It's a lot higher than people think.
Really?
It's right now it's around 670 positions that require that power line technician qualification. So that includes supervisors that have to have the trade background, like myself as well, and the people doing the actual work. So, 670 now. We're talking about increasing those numbers a little bit. So we forecast on losing 35 people every year, to different
Wow.
jobs. I said you can branch into other jobs between
Yeah.
other, trade losses, we call that, and retirements, and people moving on to other things. 35 a year. So right now I've been hiring 42 a year. I'm really only gaining 7. So I've been told to increase numbers, which is
Really?
good for candidates might be interested. You
Yeah.
betcha.
So I'm going to wrap up there. Obviously, and I'll give you a couple seconds to touch on that, but obviously there's, incredible opportunities for young folks that want to get in at Hydro at a young age and on the ground floor.
Yeah. Awesome
Yeah.
opportunity. I wish more people knew about it.
Yeah. Well, we're doing our best today, so I hope we got a couple thousand kids that are listening in, so that's perfect. Thanks so much, Floyd. I really appreciate it. This was just really terrific information.
Right on. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm gonna jump. I'm gonna go a little bit out of order. Erica, if you're available, if you want to unmute,
I'm
and
here.
oh, awesome. Okay, because Joanne's just she's behind. So I'm gonna jump over to you.
Okay.
Your title, another good business card extender needed. Talent acquisition events strategy. Did I get it right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I'll let you take it away as far as how many plates you're juggling in the air and all the different responsibilities you have, and then we'll jump to a Q&A.
Sounds great. Thanks so much,
Okay.
Greg, and thanks for having Manitoba Hydro here today. This is really exciting. We love to share information about our career paths and opportunities with folks throughout the province because there's so many different ones at Hydro. So yes, my job title is a mouthful: Talent Acquisition Event and Strategy Advisor. So what that means is that I do things like give presentations to the public, people of all ages, backgrounds, and interests to help educate them on what some career opportunities are here with Manitoba Hydro. I also work really closely with our major recruitments, which are the larger scale recruitments, such as the ones that Floyd spoke to, so the Powerline technician and pre-placement program, as well as the power electrician, which Nikki spoke to earlier, and our mechanical technician, as well as more larger scale recruitments where we want to entice and invite people to apply because they maybe aren't aware that we have so many great opportunities here at Manitoba Hydro, especially the trades training that are fully paid. I have been with Manitoba Hydro for about 5 years. I come from a community development background, and I'm very passionate about community arts, and I value reducing barriers and giving people opportunities to access the same resources. That's just really important to me as a person, and it probably always has been, even since high school. So I really didn't know what I wanted in high school, and I flippy flopped through a million and one different things. But like Nikki said for herself, I also took all the higher level courses just to keep my doors open. I did a lot of community work, whether it was through employment resource development with different organizations or teaching art classes, but found over time that I really wanted to develop a more stable career. So I ended up going to the University of Winnipeg and taking an urban and inner city studies degree, which essentially combines community development, a bit of planning, and some HR background, human resources background, all into one to help you kind of be a good leader within different sort of streams of information sharing. So from there, after working with these funding-based organizations, I found I needed to find somewhere stable to work. And I was looking forward to a place where I could grow and develop my career over time. And Manitoba Hydro was the place for me. So I started here as a call center call taker, specifically supporting the natural gas service department. So a lot of people aren't aware that Manitoba Hydro actually maintains the natural gas service in the southern part of the province. So it's typically south of Brandon, or pardon me, south of Dauphin, that you'll find gas in Manitoba. And so if you smelled a rotten egg odor in your home, or if you, were concerned about a sound coming from a meter, you'd be calling me. And then I would be working with the natural gas folks to get somebody else to help you resolve that issue. From there, I became a senior rep within that group and then moved into an admin role here in the human resources area at Manitoba Hydro. When I had a chance to apply on the job I'm doing now, it was a perfect fit for me because I really think it's important to share with folks as much as you can about opportunities that are out there. And it's a pairing of my passion for community and also just making sure that I'm in a good financial and stable position for my family, in that I have a great place to work and I can still continue to encourage other people to blossom and do well in their lives too. So I've had a great journey with Hydro so far, and I get to work with all these lovely folks who are here on the call today from Manitoba Hydro and encourage them to share what opportunities we have with other people today and elsewhere so that we can ensure that people can be prepared to, have the best life they can. That's a bit
Perfect.
about
Awesome.
what I do.
That's great. Okay. Event strategy. What does that mean exactly?
So what that means is that so our events are strategic. We select generally to attend and inform people about opportunities based on some of our needs. And for
Okay.
supporting our major recruitments, that means making sure that folks like high school students know that they could be eligible for our trades training programs right out of high school. So we want to make sure that they're aware that taking that higher level math, so the applied or pre-calculus, the 40S physics will open even more doors. For example, you could get into the power electrician stream with that. making sure that people know that a driver's license is something that is really important, even if it doesn't seem like it is now. That's going to help you get any kind of entry-level labor job with Hydro, as well as a paid trades training job with Hydro. And also letting people know that we have pre-placement programs for folks who are women or Indigenous to help them prepare for our 4-year apprenticeship training programs. So the strategy piece is that we prioritize speaking with folks in communities where we have employment opportunities, and meeting with folks who maybe could grow into these roles, such as high school students, so that we can, ensure that they're aware of what's out there for them, and benefit them and benefit Hydro, and ultimately benefit the province by ensuring that the utilities are running smoothly and safely.
Gotcha. So in your role in doing that, are you doing a lot of online work? Somebody's asking, like, is a lot of your work online, doing job postings? I don't know if it's Indeed or LinkedIn or that kind of stuff.
Not my role specifically. There are human resource representatives who do more of the admin components that make that piece happen. What I do as a coordinator is I work with a person like Floyd Thorkelson, who's the training coordinator, and
Right.
hiring manager for the Powerline technicians. And then we partner on collaborating with another person who's on this call here, Amy Jean from social media, and come up with some plans about how we're going to advertise and promote these programs. So we'll discuss the types of strategies you want to use, whether it's posting on LinkedIn or whether it's posting on social media. And then things like events, I'll more specifically talk to Floyd about. And then from there, the work gets triaged to the experts who do the actual postings and have the connections to the resources to make that magic happen.
Wow, interesting. Somebody's asking if you could talk a little bit more about, I think you said it was essentially your first career at Hydro, working in the call center, taking calls from customers. If you could just talk a little bit about what's that like, what are the hours like,
You
that kind of
bet.
thing.
The call center is a really great place to work at Hydro, and a great foundation for a career here. You get to learn about every aspect within the
Yeah,
organization, because you touch on concerns across the board. And the more interested you are in problem solving, the more exciting working in the call center will be. It's generally typically, I'd have to double check the actual current hours, because there's been a couple changes, but it's going to be a daytime type position,
sure,
probably like an 8 to 6 window, and you'd have a shift within there that you do. For those who maybe are not familiar, a lot of Hydro's employees work on a 9-day work schedule. So that means they get every other Monday off. But in the call center, that day is going to shift a little bit depending, because they just
sure.
want to make sure it's balanced. There is some overtime opportunity as well. So, for example, during that major storm in 2019, I did quite a bit of overtime. There was a lot of emergency calls coming in. As you work longer in the call center, you develop more skill sets, and you take on more different call types. And ultimately, you're taking emergency calls at 2 in the morning. You're on call doing all that. So generally, it's going to be a work day, but you're going to have some opportunities to do some overtime and potentially be on call. And that's usually a voluntary opportunity where you'd put your name on a list to be through a rotation.
Okay. Somebody asks, can I work in the call center remotely from my home? It probably means specifically, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. It comes up a lot, and a lot of call centers are remote. So it's a common question. We have a hybrid model at Manitoba Hydro, which
Okay,
means that 2 days a week, folks can generally work from home, a Monday and a Wednesday. Now, that also depends on each business unit's need. So that's a fancy way of saying depending on the scheduling needs for each group.
sure.
So I can't guarantee you it would be those exact days. And I come in on days that are considered hybrid because it's part of my job. So it really would depend. To be a conversation with your supervisor. Long story short, it's going to be a combo of in-person and remote.
Gotcha. Okay, last question for you is somebody's asking about the if they want to keep tabs on hydro and the job opportunities. We're sort of inundated these days, right, with
Yeah.
how to keep track of all that kind of stuff. Like, is it follow Hydro on LinkedIn, follow them on Indeed? Is it just going to a website constantly? Can you sign up for an email? What's the best way?
Fantastic question. So I'm glad you asked that. Really important that you go to our website and you create an online profile. So if you go to the Apply Now page on our website, click on the register button, create an online profile. Even if you're in grade 10, you can do it because it's something you can go back and update and add your transcripts to, add your first aid certificate to, your driver's license, whatever it is over
Sure.
time, and then
Yeah.
sign up for job alerts. And
Oh,
job
okay.
alerts are where you can select the areas that you might be interested in working in, and they range from the 80 different career streams across Manitoba Hydro. So you can select up to 5, or you could select all, but just know that we'll send you an email anytime there's a job opportunity that's connected to that area of interest. So I myself get job alerts, and I find out when there's different opportunities within Manitoba Hydro because I've signed up for them myself.
Got it. Perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm glad we got that asked and answered because that's obviously really important for, as you
Mhm.
said, students of any age. Okay, unfortunately out of time because we could keep chatting. Thanks so much for joining us, Erica. This was awesome.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
You're welcome. I'm going to jump to Joanne Roberts, who's sort of our buffer halfway through Hydro. As I said, Hydro's had unfortunately got lots of folks who are having to handle emergencies across the province. So Joanne graciously decided to jump in. So Joanne works at City TV, and Joanne, do you want to maybe just take a couple minutes, tell us about how you ended up there, what your sort of career path was to get there, and then we'll jump to a Q&A as the questions come in.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. So I actually had quite a not traditional entry into news, I would say. 2020 hit, and I was an actor, and all of a sudden, all of these jobs in theater and film just dried up because we weren't allowed to gather and work. So I think at that moment, I was like, well, how am I going to, well, first of all, pay rent, but thinking about just the longevity of an acting career. And so that's when I started to go into producing and writing and directing in film. So I made a little bit of a mark as a filmmaker. I did a couple of short documentary series for CBC. And that's when somebody said, hey, do you want to try being a reporter? And I went, okay, sure. So what happened is I applied for a 6-week internship for people who had translatable skills. So the writing and directing, shooting that could be trained to move into reporting. So essentially there were 5 of us. It was the very first iteration of this program at CBC. And we went through a 6-week boot camp where they shoved 3 years of journalism school into those 6 weeks. And what I found really, really cool was usually when you go to journalism school, you major in a very specific part of journalism. So if you want to write articles is a different thing. If you want to do what I do, which is broadcast for TV, also radio, all of these different disciplines have very different skills that you need. And so what was really cool about the CBC program is I was able to get trained in everything. And so I got to pick, like, as a filmmaker, I was pretty sure that I wanted to go into broadcast, but I had that choice and still have that knowledge and skill set to be able to, go anywhere I want. But yeah, CBC gave me my very first job as a reporter. So going from filmmaking to reporting, understanding the ethics that you need. We can't just, print or write or say anything we want. We have very specific codes that we stick to in terms of making sure it's a responsibility to inform the public in a way that is truthful, authentic, and make sure that it's something within their best interests. And understanding, how we write news. If you look at any news broadcast anyway, you'll notice that it's always super accessible language. And it's condensed in a way that gives you all of these different points that tell a whole story, but within a very short amount of time. And so that was really cool for me to learn as a filmmaker. And I actually fell in love with reporting really, really quickly. always being a storyteller, I am still able to get out into the community and tell stories of people. I love telling stories of people that I don't get to hear from. So if, for instance, there's somebody in our healthcare system who has fallen through the cracks and she has nowhere else to go, she'll come to me and I will get her story out there. And because of where I work and who I am, I'm able to get her answers. I mean, as best as I can, and hopefully make a difference. So I love doing those stories and having a news organization backing me to not only be able to go out and find these people to shoot it, but also to broadcast it every single night. It's really, really cool. What I also love about my job is I get to do something different every day. So yesterday I did a hot wings challenge just to see if I could do it on camera. I didn't. And then today I'm hunting a story about an apartment building who doesn't have air conditioning. And, you know, you're in Winnipeg, you feel this heat wave. For a lot of people with chronic health conditions, it's quite dangerous. So trying to find out answers as to, you know, is this apartment block going to get an air conditioning unit eventually, or is there sort of like a safety buffer for residents right now until the weather, you know, cools off? So it's something fresh every single day. And I have to say, growing up as a storyteller, as somebody who's Filipina, I never thought that a career in broadcast was something that was available to me, much less something that I would fall in love doing. And what I really love about this industry right now is that, you know, traditionally, say 20 years ago, you would have had to go to journalism school to get the diploma and get the contacts. But I mean, really now it's you forge your way in. So if you are a strong writer in broadcast, if you've got a strong camera presence, if you have that need for curiosity and research and just talking to people, it's a great career to really consider.
That's awesome. Thanks. Okay, I want to just pick up on what you were just saying, because I think that's really interesting about the fact that you don't need to go to journalism school. And of course, you know, parents, high school educators are always encouraging students, and rightly so, to go to university, college, community, trade school, whatever that is. But this is interesting that, as you said, like if you're a strong writer or some of those other things you mentioned, you can forge your way into the industry, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Like, of course, journalism school, it's important. A lot of people go that route. You get training on the ground. You get to hear from instructors, make those connections, and really hear what it's going to be like in the field. So that is an experience. While you don't absolutely need it, it's still really important, and it gives you a fresh perspective
Yeah.
that is still needed in newsrooms. But just as much as a non-traditional, perhaps I would say, journey like mine. I mean, I came into it late. I think I was 31 when I started at CBC. And
Wow.
just for different reasons, life experiences, financial reasons, I never actually got the opportunity to go to post-secondary school for a program like that. So I love that it is flexible, but I'm not saying one is better than the other. They both give you great perspectives.
Yeah.
If you can't go the traditional route, if you can't afford 3 years of journalism school or don't really want to do it, it's really all about proving that you belong in this industry, regardless whether you graduate and you're dropped in the field, or you're like me and you just get set loose with, you know, 6 weeks of training. You still have that period where you have to prove that you belong there. And
Sure.
you know, if you want to just get into it and find your own stories, check out broadcasts or web articles and try and stick to sort of that format with some room to play. Come up with a reel or an article, and you know, send out your resumes. It's really all about what you can produce. So regardless if you went to journalism school or if you did what I did, we both have to come up with like a reel. So going
Yeah.
out into community, showing what you can write, how you can shoot and edit, and then present at the end of the day is the most important thing.
Yeah. Somebody asks, your stories, are you finding them? Or, I mean, obviously, as you said, people will contact you and go, I've got a problem with healthcare or the air conditioning in my unit. But so obviously some of those stories come to you, but
Yeah.
how do you, when they're not falling, you know, when your phone's not ringing or the email or text isn't coming in, how do you find those stories?
Okay, little secret. So there are two types of stories. There are press release stories and there are enterprise stories. So press release stories, we all get put onto like press lists of different organizations and people, advocates. So they'll send us things every single day. My inbox currently has like 200 or so emails that I haven't checked over the past, like 3 days. That's how quickly the inbox fills
Really?
up. Yeah,
Wow.
it's bad. But the thing with those stories is that everybody gets those stories. So here at City TV, we'll get the same one as CTV and Global. And so while they are very important, what I really love to do and what I think many journalists strive to do is to do those enterprise stories. And what that means is going out into the community and getting somebody's perspective that no one else has. So for instance, this apartment block, somebody had reached out to somebody that I knew. They reached out to me. And it's like, okay, well, I mean, there are probably no news organizations that's going to have that story tonight. So getting that, like, that like chase of like, I'm going to get it first
Sure.
before everybody else jumps into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would say it's a good combination of like getting emails and getting into the community. And because I've been working in this industry for about 4 years, I was very into obviously the arts and culture industry. I know a lot of people in the city. So while newer reporters are going to have a little bit of some legwork to do to be able to integrate into different communities around Manitoba, I feel like I've established myself. So like, Greg, there's no real moment where my phone's not ringing.
Okay. Last question for you, because I gotta jump. Somebody wants to say, can you tell us about the pay? Do you make a better income based on the stories that you cover, or is it a set salary? How does that work?
As far as I know, in the two, so over at CBC and here at City, it's a set salary. I will say that if you Google the salary, it is not accurate. And I would say that I'm making it pretty decent. Like, no, I'm not rich. I'm not gonna have a yacht anytime soon, but I'm comfortable and the creativity really fuels me and I'm happy.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much, Joanne. I really appreciate you jumping in last minute. This was really terrific. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Have fun, everyone.
Okay, take care. I'm going to jump over to Lindsay Kirk, back to Manitoba Hydro. Lindsay is in the accounting department at Manitoba Hydro. So, hi, Lindsay, and if you
Hi,
could just
Greg.
tell us, hi, if you could just tell us a little bit about what you do there and how you ended up there, and then we'll jump to some questions.
You bet. Hello, everyone. So my name is Lindsay Kirk. I am currently the Accounts Payable Supervisor at Manitoba Hydro. I work downtown at 360 Portage. I've been at Manitoba Hydro for 17 years, which is a very long time, and time just seems to fly by, but 17 full years at Manitoba Hydro. And just like Erica, I started off in the contact center as well 17 years ago. Really valued that experience that I had at the call center. Like she mentioned there, you get some really excellent exposure to the corporation, and I took that valuable experience and kind of used that as I grew my career. Speaking prior to that in high school, I've always had an interest in business, and unlike Floyd and Nikki, I never wanted to work outside. I love the office. I love the temperature controlled building, and it was never something that I wanted to pursue as outside work. So I knew that a business type of career stream was something that I was always interested in. So I did take some of those university prerequisite courses that the high schools offer. I think there was English and pre-calc. And I had those in my back pocket whenever I just determined where I wanted to go in my career. So as I started at Hydro supported me as I pursued and finally completed my Bachelor of Commerce honors degree, as well as my CPA designation. So I'm a chartered professional accountant. And right now in my position, I lead a team, and there's 15 of us total, and we're responsible for the payables function at Hydro. So we're still a very centralized function, and we deal with a lot of the areas in the corporation. And to put it very simply, we're responsible for paying the bills at Hydro. So everyone at Hydro, all the areas seem to need bills paid, and we're the area to do it. So I love the challenges that come with payables. There's a lot of analysis that's done in my role, as well as teamwork and collaboration. Again, it's a bit of a larger team for Manitoba Hydro, and working with the team that I have is really what makes me excited to come back every day. I really enjoy that type of work. So I'm a CPA, and that is a requirement for the role that I'm in. But the rest of the team that I work with, they have their certificates, diplomas, and degrees in accounting. So the education to work in payables and most of the finance functions don't necessarily require a CPA designation. There's a lot of opportunity for people who want to get a certificate, diploma, or degree. We have, again, we're a really large company, so there's a lot of routes you can go with respect to finance careers. And accounting careers. And you'll also find CPAs if that's something that people want to pursue in various areas of hydro too. So I'm in we just changed department names. I'm in the financial controls and operations department, but you'll find CPAs at hydro in the customer service and in operations and in various different areas. So that's another thing I really love about working at Manitoba Hydro is the opportunities. And I think my coworkers had touched on that as well. Like if that's not necessarily something you're interested in the role that you're in, Manitoba Hydro likely offers something that would interest you as well. So having an accounting background has also opened a lot of doors because, like I said, Hydro has a lot of opportunities in different paths. Although I really enjoy the work that I'm in today.
Perfect. Okay, thanks. A couple questions that have already come in.
Awesome.
How did you? Maybe I'll throw both these questions and then you can sort of tackle it. So one person's asking, how did you get into this position? Another person's asking, did you, when you joined Hydro, you said you were working in a call center. Were you on an education path already to get in the degree you needed in accounting, or did that start after you were at Hydro? So you want to tackle all that?
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to work at Hydro, and I know that Hydro is a really great company, and I took that. And I already had some previous customer service experience that was applicable to working in the call center. So I was able to kind of get my foot in the door in that way. And I got my degree and my designation in the evenings after I started working at Hydro, and it took me a very long time to do it. Although I would absolutely say it was worth it. But in looking back, it's not the career path necessarily for everybody. I work with a lot of people who out of high school go into university, they get their degree, and then they apply, and then they go right into the accounting stream. That isn't my story. I started in the call center, and I worked up the ranks. After a few years in the call center, I got an entry-level accounting position with Hydro, and then just kind of built my career from there. So yeah.
Okay, so you kind of got into it, and then I guess you got the bug then, and went, okay, if I want to keep progressing within the finance side, then you've got to take care of the education side.
You got it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Somebody's asking about the differences between being an accountant that working for a company, it's called a crown corporation, but a company that's owned by the Manitoba government versus working in the private sector, and they're asking about advantages and disadvantages. I don't suppose you're going to get into the disadvantages too deep, but what are you aware of? Because I'm sure you know of the differences sort of between a private company versus a company that's owned by the government. I mean, I assume there's differences.
Yeah, accounting's pretty, it's something you can transfer from private to Crown Corps or wherever you work. It's that designation you can kind of take wherever you feel is the best fit. What I find really wonderful about working for Manitoba Hydro is the different career streams within Hydro in comparison to likely some of the private companies that are out there, where if you're working for an accounting firm, that's likely what you're going to be doing is that accounting type role. But again, at Hydro, although I'm in the accounts payable function, I really love the leadership aspect of my role, and I work with accountants that are in various different fields at Hydro. So because of the size of the company at Manitoba Hydro in comparison to likely a lot of the other ones, we can move around into a role that maybe best fits our strengths and things like that, and our interests.
Gotcha. Somebody's asking about the education, if that's something you had to pay for, or did Hydro pay for it? Because I know Floyd was talking about I I think it was Floyd. I could be mixing it,
Mhm.
but one of your colleagues was talking about Hydro paying
Yeah.
for the education that they were getting. Was it the same for you or not?
So Manitoba Hydro does offer for full-time employees a what's called a course award program. So as long as it's supported by a development plan, Manitoba Hydro will help financially support your education as long as that's something that aligns with the business and your development plan. So I did receive that support from Hydro, both from a mentor perspective and then as well from a financial perspective as well. So yes.
Okay. I've got two questions and then I'm
Mhm.
gonna let you go. First
Yeah, for
one
sure.
is there a pension plan with Hydro? That's the first question. And then the second question, um, are there opportunities for folks who don't want to live in Winnipeg or the larger urban centers that want to work on the finance side? Are there opportunities for them in smaller communities around the province?
You bet. Okay, so to start, we absolutely have a pension. Again, I've been here 17 years now, and now I'm viewing that as more valuable than when I started for sure. We have a great pension at Manitoba Hydro. Floyd talked about how you can retire at 55 with an unreduced pension. So we have a really fantastic pension, absolutely. And then if you're wanting to work in finance or accounting at Manitoba Hydro, there likely are some fewer opportunities outside of Winnipeg that you might be able to gain some experience. But our division, I'm quite certain we are all downtown. There might be a few individuals that work in some remote areas, but we're primarily at 360 Portage.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, this was terrific, Lindsay. Thanks so much for
Thanks,
joining us.
Greg.
This was really awesome.
Yeah, you
You're
bet.
welcome. And last but not least, Amy Jean McLean is joining us. Amy is a social media analyst. I think I got that right.
Yep.
Okay, good. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your job? How did you end up there? Your education path, and then we'll jump to questions.
Yeah. So you got my title right, but my name is Amy Jean. It's both.
Oh,
So
sorry.
yeah, it's all good. So I also work in downtown Winnipeg, but the work itself kind of takes me and my team sort of all over the province. So we do a lot of different things. I primarily do a lot of social media content. We also do news releases, media advisories, responding to reporters like Joanne, maybe, writing articles, speeches, producing video. It's a lot of writing, a lot of creativity, but it's a lot of fun. So how I got into it, initially, when I was in high school, I wanted to get into film and I was considering pursuing a film degree, but I didn't really have the money to go through a 4-year program and to spend 4 years without full-time income. So for me, I went to creative communications, which is at Red River College. It's a 2-year program. And initially I went in wanting to work specifically on media production. So you'd be kind of like be a bit more technical. I ended up going into journalism as it happened.
Okay.
And yeah, from there I got into news, and then after that I transitioned more into the communications and marketing side. So I really enjoyed English in high school. I did not take physics. That was not my journey. But what really helped me was, so I grew up in Morden, and there was a local radio station there in Winkler. And after high school, I got a part-time job there, operating hockey games, baseball games, doing weather updates, that kind of thing. And I think that's really what helped me get into Crecom and then also continue building my career there. And yeah, the best part I think about this job is how many different things you get to see, how many different people you get to meet, kind of similar to what Joanne was saying. I would say the difference working in more like of corporate communications and what I really love is that there is so much work that happens in this company behind the scenes that you don't realize. Things like what Nikki and Floyd were talking about, for example, to keep your lights on. But then even beyond that, like Erica was saying, we also have gas service. And it's really cool to get to learn about that work and see the expertise that people have in this company, and to be able to connect that to customers and the public who don't often get to see that.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's terrific. You talked a little bit about the social media side and the writing side, and the first question
Yeah.
somebody has, and I had this my last session, I think it was when we had on our HR expert talking about using AI for writing resumes, for writing cover letters and stuff like that. So taking it over to the social media side, is that a tool you're using? And if so, and even if not, what are your thoughts on using that type of technology?
I mean, I think it has its place. Like, for example, sometimes when you're editing a photo and you're in a time crunch, because that's something with communications, is you're often in a time crunch.
Yeah,
It can be a great editing tool. I would certainly caution relying on it. It can certainly be a starting point or a helpful tool, but you do have to have writing skill on your own. You do have to have creativity and be able to kind of see different paths for what you're writing,
sure.
and be able to create, like, if the first draft of what you created doesn't work, and it's probably not going to be frank, you have to be able to kind of come back and rework that. And I mean, sure, we don't really use AI for most of our social media content, but it can be a helpful tool.
Okay. Somebody asks, do you work on or create the hydro ads for PowerSmart?
That's a great question. So PowerSmart is now Efficiency Manitoba, which is a separate Crown corporation. So we don't,
Right.
they do their own thing now. We do have our own ads. You may have seen, like, about the online account maybe, or
Yeah.
different safety information. We do that. I don't work as much with that. We have a marketing strategist who plans out those long-term strategic campaigns a bit more than I do. But yeah, we do that.
Okay. Somebody asks, what were the summer jobs that you held, or that you feel were important to you to help you build up your resume to get into hydro?
So I did, like I said, I had started out at a local radio station, kind of like in the booth, in the controls, behind the scenes.
Right.
Um, and that was a full year before I went to college. There was only one summer in between my years of college, and I worked for the same company as a summer events student. So that's kind of like, uh, in Winnipeg, there's different radio stations you could be a part of, like their street team type thing. I highly recommend
Right.
that. The station that I was on, because it was a fairly small market, I actually got to do like live cut-ins when I was out at events. That was awesome.
Oh, wow.
Like, radio's a really great place to start your career, in my opinion, if you have the option, because you learn very quickly about timelines and working under pressure. And I thought that was fun, where, like, you know, the system's going down and you have to figure out a way to fix it and get it back on air and running smoothly in like
Yeah.
seconds, while there's also like a dead air alarm going off. So I enjoyed that. But yeah, and then on top of that, there's lots of different freelance opportunities that you can get. I did a few different internships when I was in college that weren't necessarily in the summer, but I did an internship with the Winnipeg Jets. I also had it was kind of freelance. It was every weekend in this Sunday feature paper that the Free Press had. It was a little column on 7 things to do in the city, which, as someone who's not from the city, I will say I was highly underqualified for. But you got to fake it till you make it.
Absolutely. I love that. That's great. You mentioned something. I just want to make sure you just expand on a little in case folks don't understand it. You said one of the best jobs you had when you were young was working on a street team. Was that for like a radio state? Is that what you're referring to? Or
So,
can you describe what that
well,
is? Because you mentioned it's a
yeah,
really great opportunity for a young person.
yeah. So, if you're in Winnipeg, those are larger market stations. So typically the street teams, I I don't know that their street teams are generally on air. So generally you'd go to events.
Yeah.
And there's a booth and you interact with people. There might be things to give away. There might be a contest type thing. There's all of the summer fairs and festivals that you would go to for fun. You'd see these kind of things there. And it's not just radio stations. Like I remember Recycle Everywhere had a street team. I can't remember any of the other ones because this was a few years ago. But for me, it wasn't a team. I was a one-woman show. And we went to, my job was to go to different events. We had a booth. We would broadcast live. So I would have to do live cut-ins about whatever we were doing. And then, there usually was some type of giveaway or a prize draw that people would put their name in for.
Awesome. Somebody's asking, what's the key to being a good social media writer? And be it whatever it is, Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is. What's the trick to writing? Because you're limited, you've got a small amount of words to use. What's the trick? What's the secret sauce?
You got to get to the point is one of it. You got so editing, I guess. Okay, what I would say the core of writing for social media in general is being very comfortable with getting it wrong. So what I mean by that is when you initially create something and you're like, this is great, this gets the point across, you got to take a second look, or you have someone else take a second look to help make sure that you're saying it as concisely as possible, that you're not repeating yourself or it's not redundant or you're not throwing in information that people don't need. Or you may have written something and maybe it's like humorous or something or like in line with a current trend, but it doesn't make sense to other people around you. And furthermore, another thing to keep in mind is that what your algorithm is might not be the same as the people you're trying to reach. So on Hydro, for example, my personal algorithm is a lot of, I like animal videos, honestly. And that's not necessarily what our customers are seeing online. So I may like a trend with hoof cleaning is what I've been watching a lot lately, which is kind of crazy, like cow hoof cleaning. But that's,
I've seen them.
You know what I'm talking about. But that might not necessarily. Okay, so I can reach you then. We know that's good.
That's
We're on
right.
the same wavelength.
That's right.
But not everybody is. And so you have to keep in mind that what may be a trend to you, your mom, I think we've all experienced trying to show a meme to our parents before. They may not understand it and it might not connect. So you have to be willing to realize that sometimes you're going to get it wrong and someone's going to say, hey, Amy Jean, this doesn't work. And then you have to start over. And
I was mentioning we had Derek Rolstone from Stone HR Strategies, and he was giving students advice on resume writing and writing a LinkedIn profile and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things he always talks about is having people proof it. I'm assuming, and you kind of touched on it, you've got to have, is it your boss? Is it just a coworker? I mean, before you put something out there, and we all know what can happen if you put the wrong thing out there and the trouble that can cause. So I'm assuming it's just so important to have people proofing that kind of work before you guys actually push it out.
I would say depending on the nature of the work, you'd have someone proof it. You also have to build up those skills on your own to be able to proof things. Creative communications is really great for that. They're pretty strict about that kind of stuff. And so you get into the habit of you need to double check to confirm the spelling of someone's name or the location or the time of whatever you're putting in there. And so for me, we share a lot of outage information on social media. So generally, that's just me proofing that. And that's on me to make sure that I've got the times, the dates, the information, the grammar, it's all correct. And if it's wrong, that's on me. But if we're doing something a bit bigger, like, for example, a news release that's going to be sent out to reporters across the province that, has a lot of important and detailed information, in those cases, we would probably have somebody else look it over. And there's different kind of tricks you can pick up for proofreading. I remember one of our instructors would say to read something backwards, because sometimes when you're reading something correctly, your mind will fill in words or letters or whatever. But if you read it backwards, then that sometimes helps you realize if you've missed words.
I'm gonna remember that one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, I've run over, so I gotta end it there. This was really fantastic. Eugene, thanks so much for joining us. Great
Yeah, thank you.
information, great advice. Thanks to everybody at Manitoba Hydro. Thanks to Joanne Roberts from City TV. We have one session left on May 27th. You can email Shauna Andrews, sandrews@jamanitoba.org for more information. And this recording will be uploaded and available later tonight. Thanks everybody for joining us. Have a great day. Take care.